Hello gang, it's Nia and I'm back. I want to continue on with my tips for moving on with after you've been in a relationship with a borderline or a narcissist. So tip 3 talks about forgiving yourself. One of the hardest things to do is to forgive yourself for allowing yourself to remain in something that you probably knew was unhealthy or toxic, but you remain in it anyways. It happens. It happens, but that doesn't mean that you can't move on with your life. It doesn't mean that you can't love again. It doesn't mean that you aren't able to have a healthy relationship. Again, the truth is that we all fall victim at some point in our lives, but we must accept responsibility for our choices that we made, and that's the reality of it. The other ugly truth of this is that the person that you were with probably really was toxic, and that is a hurt piece for some of us, especially if you really were in love or had these life plans or whatever it is, but think about it like this. The reality of it is that they consciously hurt you or manipulated you, lied to you, or cheated on you. And I'm not saying that people can't hurt or make mistakes, but we're talking about a person who has, a narcissistic personality disorder, which again, let me remind you, does not have the constitution to love, or someone who's borderline. And I want to make sure that I'm being clear with this, because it's not about like in relationships, if somebody hurts you, throw them away. If you go through changes or they cheat or whatever, throw them. I'm not saying that at all, because we all make mistakes. We're all human. It just is what it is, and we also need to forgive one another. But what I am saying in the regard of dealing with someone who has narcissistic personality disorder, they are fundamentally programmed against relationships. They're only programmed to perform. It's a front, and they don't have the capacity to be in an actual relationship. They figure out what character you want them to play, and they play it, and they play it well. And some of them, let me just tell you, they deserve Academy Awards and Oscars because they can play the role very well. They're the best. They're the best at it. Trust and believe that. The person that you see is not in the beginning, because in the beginning is unicorns and rainbows. But once you see their true colors and they show you who they are, you need to really believe them. And trust me, if you paid attention, if you think back to some of it, you're like, okay, yeah, that was a red flag. But it's not until you let your guard down that you come to realize that you opened up your life and your heart to this. I don't want to call people monsters because that's really harsh, but this person who just can't love. They are a priority. They are your priority while you remain an option to them. And trust and believe me when I tell you, they are using you until they get to the next best thing, or they're the next victim. And when they are done, when they're done with you, they move on to the next. So forgive yourself, because it does happen. And I said this before, but I want you to get this. How you were treated in a relationship, if you were treated poorly, if you were cheated on, if somebody, just didn't do you right, it is not a reflection or measure of your worth. If anything, you need to be cognizant of your high threshold of pain. Seriously. Because the reality is that you no longer became protector of your own values and emotions, which only catapulted you further into the cycle of abuse in that relationship. But understand that you need to forgive yourself, so that you now know the warning signs, and now when you see them, you can run like heck. Okay? Number 4, this is a very controversial one, because people don't want to admit this, okay? But it's part of growth, and I'm going to give it to you raw and real. So accept your role. That's number 4. It is paramount that you do not walk away from any situation or any relationship and remain in that victim mentality. No, you're not a victim, but you are a victor because you chose to walk away from that relationship and you chose you. This is crucial that you live in truth and accept responsibility how you came to be in a situation like this, because if you don't, you'll continue to move on thinking that this person is a monster and they did this to me and me and oh my gosh, poor me. You know what I mean? And they're evil and they're the devil and I'm just little Miss Innocent or Mr. Innocent. No, trust me, you're not. But in order to do this, it really takes humility, and you need to dig deep and figure out why you disregarded your instincts or situation when red flags were popping up all over the place and you were just ignoring it. Here's what hurts. Was it because you had low self-esteem? Was it because you fear rejection? Or was it something that stems from childhood? You got to get to the root. Got to get it to the root. Either way, I'm not going to sugarcoat this piece. You got to accept your role. You're not a victim. Again, remaining in that frame of mind will only allow you to remain in emotional prison. While another piece to this is, while they have clearly moved on with their lives and they're not boo-hooing and not being able to function because of you. Okay, I mean, I'm not saying that that's the main reason why you should move on and not, but for you, healing and forgiveness is about you. Okay. Number 5, shift your focus. You can't keep playing the hurt over and over and getting in your head. It's like emotional. It's like self-abuse. It's like abusing yourself. And you don't want to keep doing that. Trust me, you really don't. You know, and I understand that's easier said than done because there's this thing called cognitive dissonance. It's where your mind tells you to do one thing, but your actions are in direct contrast. I mean, and in this stage, you really must do the work to figure out how you need to heal. There may be things that you still need to kind of understand and process. So I'm going to say to you, I'm going to say this to you, then set aside some dedicated time to do just that. But this everyday replaying of what happened and whatever, how can I, no, it doesn't work like that. You are only perpetuating the trauma and the pain that you are experiencing. Do not let your past interrupt your future. Live in the present, not in the past. And so, one client was like, well, Nia, that's easier said. So how do I do this? So, practice being mindful and living in the present, and thinking about your future. You know what I mean? If you can get in that frame of mind, sometimes that helps. Resurrect the old dreams that you had, old hobbies that you used to do. You know what I mean? What I do know is having a sense of purpose in life, it helps you to look forward to things. And it pulls you from focusing on the trauma that you experience and launches you forward. So, change and shift your focus. Okay, and the last step. Oh, I want to hurry up because I'm running out of time. Active listening. So, here's what I'm going to say about this. Get and find your place of solitude. Find a quiet place and listen to your inner voice, and then listen to your body. Even while you're in the middle of the storms, and dealing with the chaos and the pain and the hurt, you kind of need to listen to your inner voice because it'll be your best friend. And for those of you who have a relationship with God, this is a critical time that you need to realign yourself with Him and develop it and focus in on that relationship. And when it comes to the matters of the heart, I truly believe, and this is just me, you can agree or disagree, I don't really care, only God can heal the heart. So this is a time where you need to really hone in and focus and reconnect. And studying His Word, it provides direction for your life, and it comforts you in your time of ailing. And if you don't have a faith base, if you don't, then that's fine. But now is the time to stand tall and listen to yourself. Ask yourself, how do you feel now? What are your next steps? Listen to your inner voice and get direction. Whatever being that you may have. because that's is what's going to guide you into your new path. You got to kind of take control of your life again. You have to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and move on, because there's a life full of possibilities and desires. Okay, and understand that there's always purpose for your pain. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to leave you the last tip in another segment.